Howdy, folks. I am your host, the Mighty Bjorn, and today for you, I have another Warhammer 40k Wrath and Glory video. Going to be taking some time and talking some Gorkamorka here because I think actually Gorkamorka could be really interesting to do within Warhammer 40k Wrath and Glory. But really quick here, folks, I want to plug my channel here a little bit because I need your help, the viewers out there, to kind of help me out with my channel here. Anything from likes, comments, shares, subscriptions, etc. That all helps boost me up in the YouTube algorithm and gets my channel a bit more attention. Also, with that being said, for anyone interested that would like to provide additional support to my YouTube channel, I do have a Patreon page, which from time to time I do take and post updates and little snippets and previews, if you will, of upcoming content. You can check that out at the link down below in the video description. But anyway, folks, Gorkamorka, let's get this underway because I've actually always been interested in Gorkamorka myself, but I've never really gotten a chance to check out this board game. And unfortunately, now it's an out of print board game, so it's kind of really salty to get your hands on. But so Gorkamorka is a Warhammer 40k board game, and it features realistically only the orcs, although it does leave room for some kit bashing and things of that nature to kind of expand the game, if you will. And essentially what Gorkamorka is what happens if you take Mad Max and you combine it with Warhammer 40k. Basically, you got a bunch of speed freaks on crack running around all over a planet killing each other, as well as anything else that moves. And that there is why I kind of believe this could be an interesting idea. So the setting itself takes place on a planet named Angelus, or maybe it's Angelis. It's IS, folks, not like Los Angeles. It's Angelus. But you have a planet, the Imperium at the time when they're doing surveys and things of that nature, they believe it to be pretty much nothing more than a dead world, which is kind of what they're getting. And essentially what happens is an orc space hulk kind of warps into the system and crash lands on the planet. And the orcs decide to set up shop. And that's kind of where my campaign idea goes. Because, well, the Imperium likes to stick their nose into things. I'll get more into that here in a little bit. So essentially you have a bunch of orcs that once the Space Hulk crashes, they essentially disassemble the Space Hulk, which is what they build their vehicles out of. They start building up a town. They set up shop. They take control of the planet because there's really nothing in the way of stopping them from doing so. And essentially, well, this is actually the orc village known as Mech Town. And essentially the orcs pretty much go around terrassing across the planet, killing themselves, killing each other, killing everything they come across. And with that being said, there's also not just orcs on the planet, as because of the crash, there's also various mutants because of the radiation and things of that nature that it gave off. But also, there was a lot of Imperial survey crews that were essentially stranded on the planet because of everything that had happened. And essentially, they kind of went tribalistic and became what is known as the Diggers. And that's because essentially they kind of dug under the planet, started living in caves, whatever, to try to avoid the orcs from, well, being butchered by the orcs. Now, with all that said, all this is happening, by the way, without a single space marine in sight. Now, to me, that's quite impressive because it seems like there's anything related to Warhammer 40k has space marines. But this time, Space Marines get thrown out with the bathwater. Now, the next thing to point out, too, is that the Imperial survey crews and etc., it's essentially the Imperium, believes that Angelus is possibly a Necron tomb world. Hasn't been confirmed, but it's a good possibility, which could actually make things a bit more interesting for your Warhammer 40k Wrath and Glory campaign. So what I figure is essentially here is the Imperium decides to take further interest in the planet and decides to launch an invasion on the planet itself to pretty much wipe out the orcs. Now, this invasion could be done with space marines, That would actually realistically be my first pick. But actually, another pick, and I think would be an interesting way to play this out, would be the Talarn Imperial Guard, which essentially they're desert raiders. Their planet is basically nothing but a desert wasteland and has to do with virus bombing and etc. So basically, they're desert combat specialists, and I think it would actually be really interesting to do the campaign as the Talarns. But with that being said, no matter what happens when the Imperium decides to land on the planet, it turns into a massive wah for the planet. Because, well, folks, Gorkamorka, it belongs to the orcs. So they're going to be in for a fight. And with that being said, this is definitely going to be a speed freak heavy campaign when it comes to the orcs. Not a lot of heavy vehicles, at least not at first. Of course, over time, they will build heavier vehicles, but you're going to mostly start off with lighter vehicles, such as trucks, vehicles like the Spleen Ripper, which is one of my favorites, and then, of course, the various different types of buggies, bikes, etc. Because, well, it wouldn't be Mad Max if you had slow, lumbering tanks. And with all that being said, this would be a great opportunity to use Wazdaka Gutsmech, which is essentially a unique war boss on bike that is part of the Orc Codex, or at least it was for 5th edition. And I think he is just rad as heck. He actually killed a Titan with his bike. So that's very cool in itself. But anyway, folks, there you go. There's some snippets of an idea. And pretty much, I'm just going to let it up to you to kind of create your own campaign. I'm just pretty much kind of plugging Gorkamorka as a great, I think, a possibly great setting for a Warhammer 40k Wrath and Glory campaign. And even on the flip side, while I said about the Imperium, playing on the Imperium side, you could easily flip that around and use it as an orc campaign fighting the Imperium. But anyway, folks, hopefully you all enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for tuning in, and have yourself a wonderful day.